Today, we're going to talk about the real burnout. People keep saying things like, "Oh, you're burnt out. You just need a rest. Just take a break. You'll be fine." But what if that wasn't actually the problem? What if the problem was the reason you feel so exhausted all the time was because your talent, your resources, your intelligence is not being used the way it should be? Like a Swiss Army knife, you can't use it for as a hammer. It's made for a specific purpose. And if you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, of course you're going to overexert yourself and become exhausted from it. How many times have you felt so overwhelmed and so exhausted that you couldn't even think? And these are the types of remedies that people would throw at you. You just need a little bit more rest. Get a good night's sleep. You'll feel better in the morning. Drink some water. Maybe take a spa day for yourself. And you do all of those things hoping to have a different result the next day, and you will still wake up feeling completely drained. You have to ask yourself why. The real reason is it's not about the rest. It's about the misalignment that you're feeling between what you're actually supposed to be doing and trying to fit into this mold that society has created for you. So let's talk about what burnout actually is. So burnout is not just I'm tired. Real burnout is more about you waking up tired, working while you're tired, falling asleep, being tired. You rest, you relax, you decompress, and you still feel exhausted. Nothing that you do seems to replenish or recharge you, and you just don't seem to have anywhere else to go. It's not exhaustion necessarily. It's more about erosion. The slow, invisible erosion of having an actual meaning and purpose in your life. Many people believe that the tiredness from burnout comes from just doing too much, working too hard, having too much on your plate. But in reality, it's more about the fact that the things you're putting energy into, the things you are focusing on, aren't actually something that you personally believe in, or you're wasting your time on things that don't matter to you. And that's why you're always drained, because you're not getting anything back from all of those efforts. There's a big difference between being exhausted by doing too much and being exhausted by not getting anything back from people. You can spend 10 hours a day doing something that you absolutely love and feel energized, tired, but willing to wake up the next morning and do another 10 hours, as opposed to spending 2 hours on something that is absolutely meaningless to you. And at the end of it, you feel like it was a waste of time. This is not a personality flaw. This is not a work ethic issue. This is about biology. This is about recognizing what actually makes you tick as a person, and not following a pattern or following a plan that somebody else has laid out for their agendas, not yours. Humans are not designed to operate against themselves. They're designed to listen to their body, to react to their instincts in order to survive. And the exhaustion comes from that constant internal struggle between following this pattern that wasn't really yours to begin with, and trying to figure out what fulfills you and what makes you happy and gives you something back. So what are some of the signs that you can look for to recognize that you are being used incorrectly, that you are experiencing this type of burnout? There are subtle, but if you pay attention to yourself, to your body, then you will be able to recognize them a lot easier than you think. Number one, you're excellent and performing at a very high level at something that you absolutely hate. I can speak from experience on this one. I did this for a long time. I knew that going into working in a corporate world was not really what I wanted to do, but I was desperate to get out of a situation. I needed money and finances in order to get myself out of that situation. And so I jumped into this position in order to rectify that, thinking I have time and I will go back to what I really love eventually. But what happened was, after several years of getting used to the income and my scaling up my lifestyle with the salaries as the promotions came and all of that, I felt trapped. And I felt like I couldn't escape that lifestyle. And I had trouble getting back to who I really was. And it took a long time. I want you guys to recognize this ahead of time so you're not wasting all of those years. If you're being praised for being extremely reliable and dependable, but inside you're feeling drained and you're feeling like no one's really seeing you or hearing you or listening to you, that is a really big sign that you're experiencing this kind of burnout. Another thing that you can look for is the strengths that you feel really proud of and you feel like you can add to the situation seem invisible to those around you. Like your creative solutions to problems are being completely ignored and dismissed. You like to see the big picture. You look at a macro scale, but people are saying, no, 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 I just need you to focus on this in front of you. Just do this task list. And they don't want to hear it. They don't want to see it. They don't want to acknowledge that you might have these big ideas for an overall overhaul. And maybe you're giving some empathy to a colleague that's struggling and you're trying to help them find a solution, but you're being dismissed. You're being told by your manager, your team members, you're too soft. You should just let them get on with it. If you've ever had any of those situations where you've felt unseen, unheard, that is a really good sign that this burnout is taking over your life. And yet your work and this plan that's been laid out for you is something that is not aligning with your core values. The next thing I've also had very great deal of personal experience with is every day seems to feel like a shape shifting, like not really growth, but more about how you need to adjust to the environment around you rather than the environment cultivating and nurturing you. So you start to feel smaller. You start to get a little bit quieter. You start to withdraw, not really trust people, not want to be a part of any of the environment around you, and just make life easier for yourself because it's so hard just to go through the motions. That is enough. That's a ton of energy as it is for you. There's nothing wrong with quiet quitting or just coming and bang on time, doing what you're hired to do and then leaving. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. The reason that that is so enticing to a lot of people is because they have given all that extra effort and they don't feel like they're getting anything back. So they conserve their energy at the workplace, do everything that they're contractually obligated to do, fulfill their role to the best of their ability while they're at work, but then still reserving and leaving some of that energy behind to go and pursue something that actually brings them joy, that actually gives them something back, a passion that they feel fulfilled at, something that gives them a reason to get up the next day, because the job is not doing that. And lastly, you start to feel guilty for wanting something different. I'll go back to the quiet quitting example. Like people will say things like, no, you need to work at your job. How are you going to get anywhere? And you start to actually feel guilty for not coming in 5 or 10 minutes early when you don't actually have to. You don't have to stay late and you don't have to be a part of all of the office hoopla and going for drinks after work and all of that. If you're sitting around wanting a life that fits you, but feeling selfish about it, that is a really core sign that you're experiencing the type of burnout from not really fulfilling the things that are inside of you, but by taking care of your personal needs and your work working for who you are and aligning with yourself. That is what I call being used incorrectly, because your life is being used for someone else's purposes rather than yours. And you have control over it. Imagine being told your whole life, you're a shovel and you're digging all of these holes and you're doing everything that you're told that you're doing. And yet you wake up one day and you're like, maybe I'm not a shovel, maybe I'm a seed. I don't know if you guys watch Friends. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you do. I at least heard of it, but in the very first episode, there's a character that she ends up leaving somebody at the altar. And she's talking to her father on the phone and she's trying to explain what happened, why she decided. And she said, her whole life she was told that she was a shoe. And then she woke up that morning and she said, what if I don't want to be a shoe? What if I want to be a hat or a scarf or something else? And that's kind of what I'm talking about. You are shoveling and digging all of these holes because you were told you were a shovel and nothing's growing because you're not actually a shovel, you're a seed. And no one ever said, oh yeah, okay, so go be a seed and get into that hole and grow into something beautiful and wonderful and find the sun and create a garden. The reality is that this type of burnout isn't necessarily your fault. It's not necessarily something that is flawed within you. We blame ourselves, society blames individuals as well for this type of burnout, but it's more about environment. If you ever grown a plant or you've had a garden or anything like that, if a plant is not growing, then you either move it to where there's more sun, you change the soil, you adjust its environment around it so that it can thrive, so that it can actually grow into something beautiful and wonderful. And the problem with this type of burnout is that nobody ever wants to change the environment. Everyone wants you to change to fit the environment instead. So it's up to us to recognize these signs so that we can fix our own environments and we can thrive and grow into something beautiful. You need to fix burnout by not being the only emotionally intelligent person in a team of toxicity. You cannot carry the team members, the department, the company, the boss's work, your family, whatever the obligations are that you're involved in, to the point that you're burnt out. It should be a team effort. And if it's not a team effort, that's a big sign that it's a toxic environment that you're in, whatever the situation is, but particularly in your workplace. And if you're sacrificing and you're putting in extra effort and you're not being acknowledged, you're not being heard, you're not being praised in any way, then this is also a sign that this environment is not working for you and is not conducive to your growth. The world itself has an agenda, and it has convinced us that burnout is a personal issue and something that we as individuals need to take responsibility for and fix, adjust to make sure that the system is still going. But in reality, burnout is really a setup because it's about you adjusting yourself and diminishing yourself to fit the system instead. But it's not a failure. It's not a personal flaw. When people say we just need better boundaries, that's a real thing. But sometimes what they're saying is, please limit how much you're suffering because it's inconveniencing us. And that's just not an environment that you should be in. So what can we ultimately do about this? Once we recognize the signs, what can we do about fixing this and making it better? In the end, it's really about reframing how we're looking at what we're spending our time on during the day. Whether it's work or something else, we need to focus on what we are spending our time on and what we're giving our energy to. The moment that things start to change for you will be when you acknowledge that this might not be something that's wrong with me personally. This might not be something that I can actually fix. What if I'm just simply not where I'm meant to be? Imagine being in a space where your skills aren't tolerated and abused, but they're needed and nurtured, where you're not told to shrink to fit someone else's culture, where your ideas actually broaden the culture and enhance the culture, where you don't have to ask for permission to exist, where your pace isn't a problem and your strengths aren't extra. You don't need a new personality. You don't need to change. You shouldn't have to change who you are. You need a new environment. It's not easy. It takes time, and it can be a very difficult and daunting step to take. But once you take it, you start to build confidence. The more steps you take towards that, the more confidence you start to build. And the more aligned you start to feel and the less exhausted and burnt out you'll feel. So I encourage you that if you are constantly feeling drained by your job, by your work environment, don't keep asking what's wrong with me. Start asking yourself, is this possibly the wrong use of me? Is there something else that I can be doing that can bring in money, can pay my bills, or can I adjust my lifestyle where I don't care as much, where it doesn't drain me as much? Is there something else I can put my energy into that actually gives me energy back? Because this job obviously isn't doing it. When you're in this situation, you're not burnt out, you're actually undervalued, you're underaligned, and you're underutilized. And those are things that are very important for you to keep track of because you deserve better than that. You deserve to own your life and you deserve to own your work and make your work for you. You get one shot. If you don't do it now, you may never get a chance to do it again. I hope this helps. Please let me know in the comments. I'll see you guys next time.